Patriots camp. New England Patriots. There's a wide spectrum of expectations among the sports pundits, the football pundits, when it comes to the end result of this year's season with the Patriots. I tend to think that they are a playoff team. I don't know that they're an elite team yet, but I expect these Patriots to make a run for the playoffs.
No, I definitely agree with you too. I believe obviously you have the 17-game season now. I don't see why they can't go, let's say, a 10-11, maybe an 11-6, and challenge for the playoff spot. I just think, obviously the quarterback situation has to get figured out still. They've plugged a lot of holes, and they have a lot of promising guys who have made good strides in the camp. So I think it's definitely, obviously, like you said, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on this team, but I think they're going to be right there in playoff contention once again.
Yeah, my dark horse for the AFC would have been the Indianapolis Colts, but obviously with Carson Wentz going down, this is a big problem, and you wonder if they're going to, with that head coach, if they're going to grab Foles in some sort of trade with Chicago, since he doesn't look like he's anywhere near the starting point. As a starter, it looks like he's at least 3 deep with Trey Lance and Dalton, and it might make sense for them to bring on Foles, who's had great success with this coach. I would say you might expect to see that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you could definitely see that too. And like you said, when you talk about windows, that's another team that has the ability. They have a great offensive line right now. They have a good young running back, and they have a good defense. So this is really their time to kind of make something happen. So I think Nick Foles would be the perfect guy. And if you don't get him, I think they'll try to get somebody else who kind of fills that role. But I think he'd be the perfect guy for them to go get. And I believe they will go get him because, like you said, obviously they drafted Justin Fields, the Bears, they have Andy Dalton there, and they just really don't have a need for Nick Foles anymore.
How good are these Buffalo Bills?
That's a good question. I believe really good. I wasn't a huge believer of Josh Allen when he came out. I thought he was pretty good, but I think he's a superstar now. I think he is just like that new modern age quarterback that can run, can pass, with a strong arm. He's
tough.
Strong.
He's a tough kid too.
He's tough too. Yep, and I just think that their whole team, I think they're going to be a team that's going to be around for a couple of years, definitely around the top of the division and top of the AFC.
Yeah, Belichick's going to have his work cut out for him with this particular team. Who knows? With the Dolphins, I think have made some strides. Certainly, if the Jets haven't made strides given their draft, if they can't make strides now, they never will. I mean, this ownership may just have to sell this team because if they can't show signs of improving, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, no, and I mean, they've had every high draft pick possible these last few years, too, whether they trade them away or they don't work out. They really need to make something happen this year.
I get a little frustrated when I hear people say, see, it was Brady after all. I see some parallels between what Peyton Manning did and what Tom Brady did, and that is that both teams obviously didn't have the faith in them, so they were happy to move on. But they also, Tom Brady may have done the same thing. If Jameis Winston, if he wasn't such an interception machine, that team should have seen a lot of successes as well. And so he comes on as a very, very careful with the ball kind of guy, and they win the Super Bowl.
No, exactly. I agree 100%. And like I said, obviously, I love Brady as much as everyone, and obviously he did mean so much. He helped us win 6 Super Bowls. But like you said, just look at who he was thrown to his last year in Gillette versus who he was throwing in Tampa Bay last year. And then it's a whole different ballgame of what these guys are working with. So I do believe, obviously, he meant a lot to our team, but that's not one of those things that's like, oh, Brady left, it's all over, we have nothing to do. Because we still have, even now, we're kind of building the team back up, and I think that obviously we're going to be right back in the playoffs real soon.
Where do you see this receiving core? This is an area of concern for me, but I don't know enough about, for example, the new alleged number 1 wide receiver from San Francisco, and whether or not N'Keal Harry is going to make the strides that he needs to. I mean, usually third-year guys really start showing up, and there's been some signs of that apparently. How do you rate this receiving core we have?
Yeah, so that's obviously that's the one big question mark still with this team. And obviously, like you said, we're not really sure who the number 1 receiver is. Obviously, we got Kendrick Bourne from San Francisco, who's a speed guy who can kind of take the top end off the defense, which is what they've really needed these last couple of years. You added Nelson Aguilar from Las Vegas Raiders.
I like him.
He's another pretty good veteran guy. He's had some drop problems these last few years and in camp a little bit, but he's someone who can get open and he kind of knows how to run his routes and things. And then N'Keal Harry. someone who obviously not that long ago requested a trade, but since then he has made some strides. So whether it's he's made strides and they're going to sell him high in a trade, or they're going to figure out that he's made these strides and they're going to work him into their rotation, he's going to be a player, we'll see. But I think that obviously you would have liked to have had one more really good stud receiver, but I think obviously with the additions of the tight ends of Johnny Smith and Hunter Henry, I think you can be okay.
Yeah, and of course the quarterback battle is not really a battle. It looks pretty clear, at least what Belichick is saying publicly is that it's not really a question of who's starting on game one. He's saying Cam Newton is our quarterback. And I know that they're giving Mac Jones a heavier load. They're seeing what he can handle. He's getting more reps, all that stuff. So, it's a little bit confusing if you're trying to read, well, like anything with the New England Patriots, if you're trying to read what they're going to do, it's been tough.
No, definitely. It has been tough to read. And the one thing I've at least been able to get out of it, which is a good thing for Mac Jones, is that they showed, obviously, anyone's going to have up and downs in training camp. He's throwing a couple picks a couple days, but everyone does that. But he has, with the increase in reps and opportunities, he has also increased his production. And he has shown that, he is someone, when you put a lot on his plate, he's able to figure it out. He's someone who's really smart up top, pre-snap and post-snap. And he's able to get a lot of things done. I agree that Cam Newton, at least for right now, still, I say by Belichick, and I'll say that I believe that, he probably will get the opportunity to start game one. And then, not probably, definitely will get the opportunity to start game one. And then I think we will see where we go from there, whether or not he sticks out the whole year. And obviously, as long as Matt Jones continues to give us these opportunities to get, I think we're going to just make a further leap with him as the year starts.
Okay, I need you to fix that issue again with your audio, but we've seen Belichick bring on some pretty heavy hitters in the wide receiver core. Demaryius Thomas comes to mind, and no matter how big the name or how prolific they've been in the past, and even if he signs them, they've been cut before opening day. And are there any indications that Aguilar or Kendrick Bourne are going to be this kind of thing? Or are they performing? Are they excelling? How's it going with those two in particular?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that they're going to get cut per se. Obviously, you never know with the Patriots and how they deal with things. But they have made enough strides to show that they can at least play. Obviously, there's been some drop issues, but Aguilar has made some more plays as of recently, especially this last week. And then Bourne is someone who's really their only guy that can really still take the top off the defense, like I said earlier, and really kind of open up stuff underneath. So I think that both guys will be on the roster and hopefully will be weapons for us this year.
Yeah, Cam Newton's had another year to study. He had an abbreviated season last year. He was injured. He had COVID. He had a terrible tight end core. One of the worst wide receiving cores from top to bottom. Just a bunch of journeymen. No offense to Jacoby Myers or Gunner, but, those guys weren't really expected to make, big waves in the league anyway. Although Jacoby Myers, I think, is overachieving. He could be a factor here.
No, he definitely has overachieved. And he's that one guy that kind of still mixes in with those guys, whether you obviously have N'Keal Harry, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, and Jacoby Myers gives you that fourth guy, where even though none of those guys are really a number one guy, you know, have four guys that can kind of all play and can all kind of get open also, which is good.
Yeah, so Cam Newton, really the excuses will not be there for him this year. And I do agree with him. Well, all those things I just mentioned were definitely detrimental to success. But at the same time, it doesn't explain his telegraphing, his long mechanics, his slow mechanics, processing, and all that. So we got to see more out of him, especially with who's breathing down his back.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously that's going to only add, that's obviously, like you just said, having a rookie behind him is only going to add pressure. So whether that makes Cam play up or whether he plays down to that pressure, obviously we're yet to see. But I believe, obviously, like you said, you're still not going to be able to, he's still not going to be able to do everything. He doesn't have great mechanics. His shoulder's not as good as it was before. But I think having a tight end there will do, have Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith will do a lot for him. He's used to having Greg Olsen in Carolina as a security blanket. And I think those guys will open up a lot more. And like you said, he's still not going to be perfect, but I think you will see a lot better Cam Newton this year.
I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to take a commercial break, Jack. If you'll bear with the break, we're turning it back into this. You're listening to the Ken Pittman Show on AM 1420 WBSM. Okay, we're back. Jack Kelly, aspiring sports writer out of Bridgewater State, is joining me. And speaking of free agents, Jack's a free agent looking for a gig, aside from what he does here on WBSM. And he's been doing a terrific job throughout 2021. Jack, what do you got, one more year over there?
Yeah, so I have 2 more years because after my freshman year, I took a year off to kind of see what I wanted to do, and that's when I actually got into communications. So I have 2 more years left in my degree.
So you discovered that while you were out of school in the workforce about yourself?
Yep. Yep. So I'm definitely happy I was able to do that. So.
Yeah, I'm actually an advocate for that. I think as long as the individual goes back to school, if they get a year in the workforce, I think they learn a lot about themselves. They mature, and they can really focus on maybe the classes that suit them and the classes that will serve them. I can talk about this all the time. I really don't like that we put so much on the shoulders of 17-year-old. You get schools that are recruiting and maybe influencing and redirecting and getting in the minds of all these kids, and they're not really sure what they even want to do, and they just grab something because it's time. I think that's terrible.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just needed, like a lot of people do, you need time to figure things out, and I have a whole different outlook now than I did back then, so it's definitely good to take that time off.
All right. But Mac Jones, it looks like they're confident in handing him a heavier load, so, of course, Belichick everything's classified with him. He would have been a great CIA director. But it looks pretty clear that they expect him to be ready soon.
Yeah, no, and obviously, once he was drafted, you wanted to see how it looks, but the bottom line is he can play, and I believe that, he's someone who's smart, can read the playbook, and he's someone that can get it done at the NFL level. So we'll see exactly when that opportunity comes, because obviously it comes with how Cam Newton starts the year, but I think they now do have, which puts more pressure on Cam Newton on the fact that I think they do have the confidence in Mac Jones to be able to go out there and do it as well.
Is there any of these rookies, these highly coveted offensive weapons that dominated the first round, any of them really excelling to the point where maybe even surpassing what was expected in these camps?
Oh, so for like other teams in the whole NFL, are you talking in the scheme of the whole NFL? Or?
Yeah, the whole NFL. Is there any player in particular who's just like stunning and surpassing expectations?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of guys. I know that in Atlanta they have the tight end Kyle Pitts, who's just an absolute stud. And I know even for us, I know he's had some foot injuries this week, but Christian Barmore is someone who has looked really, really good. I know that obviously our offensive line is one of the best in football, and our defensive line has struggled against them in one-on-one situations, but Barmore is the one on the defensive line who's really been able to give those tough offensive line guys some work. So I think he's had some foot injuries, and he missed a practice or two at the end of this week, but I think he's someone who's really looking good for us.
Well, he was, at one point, he was looked at as a top 10 prospect, and then I guess his threat to quit Alabama really scared a lot of teams off, and a lot of scouts lowered him big time, and, potential first rounder, but we think he should go in the second round. So it's really never been about his physical ability, although he did not have necessarily a terrific senior year. He had a terrific playoffs against some of the best offensive lines in the country.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I believe he's one of those guys that, like you said, he can play up to the competition as well. So I believe he's one of those guys, especially when Sunday rolls around and it's game day, I think you'll see the best Christian Barmore out there as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Kyle Pitts is a no-brainer. There's not too many players like him. Big, fast, great hands, smart. He's going to be a stud, and he'll make Matt Ryan look good. He's always been a good tight end quarterback. Of course, when you're a quarterback from BC, it's just implied that you're a tight end quarterback.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so as the AFC, overall, it looks pretty clear. The rosters are starting to be clear, although we get a couple of games, some cuts being made, and some changes will be made. Who do you see as the front runner? I mean, I know you're going to say Kansas City, but give me your top 3 teams in terms of expectations this year in the AFC.
Yeah, so obviously we see Kansas City as the number one, so I'll kind of take them out of the picture as they're kind of the one that's out of there. And then the other teams I look at, obviously Buffalo is there. I'll look at the Ravens as a team that's also there again right now. I look at the Cleveland Browns as a team that's up there right now. And I also look at like either the Raiders or the Chargers. I think one of those teams is also going to make a huge jump this year. Justin Herbert was really good for the Chargers last year. The Raiders are making good strides too, and I think one of those teams is also one of those super teams that could really step up and make some plays.
I like both of their quarterbacks. I'm a fan of both of them.
Mm-hmm. No, I think Derek Carr for Las Vegas has been very underrated. He's just someone who gets the job done also. He doesn't get too much media attention on him, but his numbers have always been solid.
Jack, I noticed you left out Tennessee.
Yeah, and they are someone who would also be in there too. And they slipped off my head, but no, they are, especially, they got Julio Jones this year. They're a team who is right in the mix also. So I apologize for leaving them out, but no, they are towards the top of that list. They're the one team I left out. But no, I am actually a huge fan of what the Titans have done, and that's like I talked about, like it's windows. They realize they have a window right here with Derrick Henry, so they made the move. They got a Julio Jones. They padded up their defense, and I think they're a team that's ready to go this year also to compete.
Now, for the purposes of fantasy football, having Julio Jones on that offense, I would think Derrick Henry, with the safeties going to be on their heels, not on their toes, looking for him, he's going to benefit tremendously.
Yeah, no, and like you said, and I agree with what you said, because you get a lot of people that say sometimes, that's just another receiver to throw the ball more, but no, exactly, that's going to give him so much more opportunity. He's going to see a lot less of 8 guys, 9 guys even in the box. It'll give them so many more opportunities, especially in the middle of the field.
Does he go over 2,000 this year?
That's a tough number to get. I think he's going to be right there. I'll go on a limb and say he's in the 1900s. I'm not sure. I mean, I'll root for him to get 2,000. I just think that's an awesome thing to do.
I remember last year, Jack, I predicted he would eclipse 2,000. He got off to a slow start, so people started laughing at me, but he got it. He got there.
Yeah. No, he's one of those guys that also, like you just said too, is he gets by the end of the year, he really starts going too. So, he'll be one of those guys that, let's say if he gets 800 yards in his first 8 games, but he'll get 1,300 yards in his last 8 games, and all of a sudden you're right around those 2,000-yard mark. So, exactly. He's one of those guys who really gets built up by the second half of the year as a whole if they run him back.
He has a very good offensive line, and I think he's, he's on pace, obviously, for a Hall of Fame kind of career if he stays healthy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he's as good as it gets. And I thought when he was a prospect coming out that he was that good, too. You just didn't know because he had a lot of touches at Alabama and stuff. But no, he's as good as it gets, definitely.
Looking at the other side, the NFC, you get a very frustrated, obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Did they do anything to help this team? He was ready to walk. And then who else do you see in the NFC that should challenge? Besides, obviously, the champions.
Yeah, so he's a really interesting situation because it seems like almost every year he kind of has this. They have this kind of falling out process. Obviously, this year it seems like it's been more severe than the other years as he was really kind of on edge about not coming back. But they're still one of those teams that I think at the end of the day, they still have talent. I think they are still missing a piece here or there on offense or even defense, even though their defense is pretty good to be a Super Bowl winning team. But I think anytime you have Aaron Rodgers who's locked in, ready to play, you have Devontae Adams, and you have those other guys there, I think they'll be a contender. Other teams I look at, I actually look at one team is I think they're going to make a stride this year as long as they stay healthy, is the Dallas Cowboys.
Really?
I think they have too much. Yeah, I think they have too much talent. And I think you never know that division's up and down. I think that division is just looking for one team to come out and just take the division. I'm not saying they're going to go 15-2 or anything like that, but I do believe that this is a year to make a stride as long as Dak Prescott is healthy, and I will pick them to win the NFC East and potentially be a team to look at in the NFC. Obviously, then you have Tampa Bay, and then you have the NFC West, which is a crazy division, as you have. I think all 4 of these teams have the ability to be a playoff team and be good, as you have San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona, and the Rams all in the same division.
Yeah, Arizona is going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the NFC is a lot more wide open. There's a lot of really good teams that could represent them in the Super Bowl.
Well, I think the design of the NFL was to have parity, and it looks like they're closer to that in the last year or two than they've been in a long, long time. But there's probably... Yeah, there's got to be at least 20 teams that have legitimate reasons to be excited out of all these NFL teams. That's a good thing for the league. Patriots not near the front of the pack. I would say if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, I've never placed a bet at a casino on sports or anything like that. But I think I'd put my money on the Bills. What about? So let me ask you this. Because the NFC West is crazy. It's wide open, right? There's a lot of talent in each team. Although Seattle had next to nobody in the draft. I mean, they had no picks. They had emptied out everything to get the team they wanted. You expect them to hang? Or, I mean, Russell, because he wanted to walk as well.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. And they're a team, when I talk about, obviously, these teams having just like these abilities and these windows to win, their window is closing very fast. And like you said, obviously, with the draft picks, they're kind of an all-or-nothing thing right now. And they have, kind of like Green Bay, they have a situation where as long as Russell Wilson is there and they have the receipt, they have Tyler Lockett, they have DK Metcalf, they have some of these other guys, the defense isn't great. So I think there'll be a team that's around contending. But like you said, in that division, I mean, I'm not sure what happens this year. I think they should be a good team still, and as long as you have Russell Wilson, you have a chance. But there's just so many other good teams out there, and I think we shall see what happens.
All right. So the United States, the second most amount of medals in the Olympics, China with the number one. However, when it comes to gold, it was neck and neck. China beat U.S. So far. Is it over? Is it all over?
Oh, the Olympics all over? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, so I just know personally for me for boxing, I know there's two United States guys who are going for gold. Technically, fighting this morning at 1 and 2 a.m.
Yes,
so I know there's still 2 opportunities for them to grab gold. I'm not sure for some of the other sports. I know the women's team is going for gold for basketball this evening. So I know there's still some other golds out there. I'm not sure how many, but there are a few out there for us to still grab.
Well, yeah, and that could be the difference. But boy, the United States, they're in 9th right now in boxing, which is a travesty. It's suppose that has anything to do with the concussion protocols, people steering away from that kind of sport. I was a bit disappointed with their performance so far.
Yeah, a little bit, and I think a lot of it does have to do with just kind of our whole amateur program. We are more a place that's more geared towards the pro ranks, so even a lot of these guys we have fighting, they're 20, 21, 22 years old, about to turn pro or just turned pro, and they're fighting these guys, whether it's from Cuba, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, these places out west, and these guys are 28, 29, 30 years old even at times, so I think that is part of it. Obviously, you want to have a better amateur program, and you want to have guys building up to get gold. I think a lot of it is just guys inexperienced, and they're facing guys who are in the prime of their careers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could actually put out Mayweather and all these guys, and but they're professionals, and they're not going to go back to the Olympics. And that sport in particular, because there's so much money to be made for these elite boxers. But at the same time, 9th in the world right now is awful. It's embarrassing. And Turkey's in front of us. They've always had good wrestlers, but now boxing, I mean, even they're in front of us.
Yeah, no, that is definitely surprising to see. And like you said, like I said before, obviously there is a different amateur program how we handle things, but you do definitely want to see that a lot higher, and that's not where you want to see us, especially with the talent we still have, even if our kids are younger, definitely.
How about wrestling? I can't tell you I watched one.
Yeah, no, I haven't followed the wrestling too much, honestly. I know that I believe we picked up one medal. Don't quote me on it. I'm not too sure, but I haven't paid too much attention to it besides that, honestly.
Okay. All right. Well, Jack, I'm going to have you come back just before opening day for the Pats, and I'm sure we'll have a much better idea of what the Sox season's looking like, and there'll be a lot to talk about. But I always appreciate your time here. And, again, he's a free agent, sports writer right now. Jack Kelly, thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. And there's one more thing I wanted to add, too, is that me and my dad have been doing a podcast a little bit here and there. We have some episodes out, so that is on Spotify. If anyone is interested, we do combat sports stuff. We talk about all the New England sports, so Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics. So that is the player and the principal. He's a elementary school principal. So we have that on Spotify if anyone is interested. So that is what I do have, at least for right now. I don't have a writing gig right now, but I do have that going right now. So if anyone's interested, they can definitely check that out.
And what's the name of it?
The Player and the Principal, and it is on Spotify and any other streaming services.
The Player and the Principal on Spotify. Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
Jack Kelly, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care. All right, we're back in just a moment. You're listening to The Ken Pittman Show.